Welcome to How to Unpicky Your Picky Eater. Before we jump into today's episode, I have some exciting news for all of the parents out there who really find it challenging to make sure that your kids are actually getting all of the nutrients they need from the very limited diet that they currently have. Well, I'm thrilled to announce that I've developed a new program specifically tailored to parents of picky eaters, ARFID eaters, pediatric feeding disorders, any parents who really just want to get more nutrients into their kiddos. Unlike traditional approaches that focus on introducing new and different foods, right, which take time and patience, and of course, it's something that we do. But this program specifically focuses on maximizing the nutritional value of the foods your child is already eating, right? So this is going to decrease some battles, decreases your stress level because you're not going to feel like, oh, they have to eat it because otherwise they haven't eaten anything good today. And it allows your kids to actually focus on learning and enjoying food that they're learning about without the pressure. So we understand every day and every meal counts when it comes to your child's health. That's why we're dedicated to helping you make the most of the foods that they're currently eating, ensuring that they receive vital vitamins, minerals, and nutrients without delay. So I am hosting a free parent webinar premiering on Saturday, June 1st, 2024. During this webinar, you're going to gain valuable insights and practical strategies to transform your mealtime struggles, and it'll introduce you to our new program. Plus, attendees who stay on until the end will receive a free gift as a token of my appreciation for you joining us. So don't let another day go by without taking action to support your child's nutritional needs, right? It affects their behavior, their sleep, how they learn, their moods. It's so super important. So register now by clicking the link below or finding details in the show notes. So let's make every meal count together. Hi and welcome. I'm so excited to see you guys here today and talk to you all about our new topic, which is the opportunity cost of waiting out your picky eater. So you might have heard your pediatrician, most likely, or I feel like a lot of parents on social media will also say this, that like, oh, eventually they'll come around to it and they'll eat. So don't worry about it. Um, if you've ever talked to a feeding therapist, they will tell you the exact opposite, that you should never wait. And it's not because we want your business. Like that is not what it is, right? It's because honestly of this topic, this opportunity cost, right? So what is an opportunity cost, right? So that is the benefits that could have been gained from choosing one alternative over the other. So whenever you make a decision, you could either choose to pursue it or to not pursue it, right? So some parents are like, I'm going to wait, right? Some parents are saying, oh, I'm going to start therapy, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do this program, or I'm going to take this course, or whatever it is, right? Or I'm going to start supplements, or whatever it is, right? There's always two choices, to do it or to not to do it, right? So in the context of this, we are talking about, our kids eating the foods that, we want them to eat, that are healthy for them to eat, that we are eating ourselves. So what's the cost there? So when you choose to wait, what you're also choosing is a decrease in nutrition, right? Because when you stick to familiar limited options, you're going to be missing out on the full spectrum of vitamins and nutrients they need, right? So, okay. So you might notice the problem, let's see, when they're 3, let's just say, or 2, whatever it is. You might wait, a year goes by, 2 years goes by. Maybe they're 7 now. And this is a scenario that happens very often. They've had problems with food. Okay, now they're 7. They're still having problems with food, and our life is much more difficult. Okay, right. But from, let's just say, 3 to 7, that's 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 4 years of not getting all of the nutrients they need, not getting all the vitamins they need, maybe not getting great sleep, maybe not being focused, maybe with mood swings and different things like that, right? That come along with missing those nutrients, right? Because there is, right, a consequence, I suppose, to your body not having everything it needs to do its job, right? So that's what I'm talking about with this opportunity cost. It's okay. So we're going, and even if you just say, okay, you know what? There's 7 now. Now we're going to start feeding therapy. We are serious about this. We are going to tackle this. Great. But now there's 7. Now 4 years have gone by. They're still sort of eating the same foods, right? It's going to take time for them to, and now it depends, right? It also depends of their how severe it is, right? Some kids might also have some RFID going on with it. They might have some oral motor. They might have some sensory. There's might be fear that has developed along with these foods. So it depends on how complex it is, that how long it will take them to incorporate new foods into the diet, right? So depending on how severe it is, like what is their profile, right? We talk about the episode about the picky eater profile that I've created and how to determine like how severe it is, right? You can take our online quiz that kind of gives you that severity. I don't know if that index, but like that severity score or like that, guidance. But, that also is a factor. But when you factor in that, like, okay, it's also going to take time. So, okay, so from 4 to 7 and now 7 to question mark, right? When is the end of that? When are they finally going to incorporate the foods into their diet, right? Because it starts out slow. It starts out, okay, they might taste some foods. Okay, they might have a little bit of it. Okay, they're trying a little bit more, but to incorporate that in and for it to be fully integrated into their life, it's going to take some time. I'd say usually around 6 months, if they're very severe, over a year. Um, and sometimes 2 years, like our severe kids with autism that only eat one food, that is definitely going to be more than 1 year, right, of intensive therapy, right? So what is the cost of, okay, from 3 to, I don't know, 8 then, right? It becomes a longer time period at that point. So what kind of growth and development happens between, 4 and 8? A lot of things. They're growing, there's cognitively, they're in school, they're learning things, they're expected to sit and learn and listen and absorb and remember and memorize and, um, you know, regulate themselves, their sensory systems. There's a lot that happens in that time. So I think there's a huge cost, an unseen cost often with that gap in nutrients, right? So that's sort of what we're talking about here is that, it's not just the opportunity cost is not just, okay, well, they're just eating the same foods, they're not enjoying different tastes. I think it has more long-term health implications. And there is a huge epidemic of childhood chronic health conditions. And I do think it is absolutely directly related to the diets that our kids are eating. The standard American diet, high processed foods, lacking nutrients, I think is a big part of this cascade of events that happens with kids, that just was not a thing. It was just not a thing. In your parents' lifetime, there were not millions of sick children. And in my free webinar, I do touch on this a little bit in more depth. So please check out that free webinar. The link is going to be below. But let's try to, it's really hard to quantify, right? Like, well, what is that loss, right? So, of course, we can talk about some basic vitamins like zinc and iron and calcium and vitamin D and vitamin A and all of those things, right? But I think more practically, we could spend our time talking about, the implications like, okay, it can hinder some muscle development. They might be more prone to breaks and fractures if they're not getting the right calcium. Cognitively, that definitely affects memory and learning. Zinc can affect your attention and focus. Behavior is very affected by iron and zinc, mood regulation, fatigue, irritability, difficulty concentrating, right? We have this like tidal wave of kids that have ADHD, but no one's looking at what foods they're eating, especially your pediatricians. And that is 100% because they are not trained in anything nutrition. They don't understand the correlation between and causation between not eating the right foods and the symptoms that their parents are presenting to them. So, I think that this is such a serious and important issue. Um, but if I did get like some basic numbers here, and again, this is super hard to quantify, but if we approximate the daily intake recommendations for key nutrients for children aged 4 to 8, along with about the years of picky eating, right? Um, right. So basically, vitamin A, C, iron, zinc, calcium, and fiber are the ones that I looked at, right? So daily intake is, for example, for vitamin A is like 400 to 500 micrograms, fiber 25 grams, iron 10 to 15 micrograms. Um, Now, if you were to calculate the total amount missed over a year for each nutrient, right? Let's just say vitamin A. Let's just say your kids have no foods with vitamin A and they're not taking supplements currently. They would miss 146,000 micrograms over 1 year. Now, let's say they've been picky for like 4 years, right? That's mind-blowing numbers, right? Fiber, right? If they have foods that just do not have fiber in them, right? Like with vegetables, um, fruits, meats, nuts, that's 9,125 grams for 1 year times however many years, right? Um, Calcium, right? Uh, I think in the last video I talked a little bit about calcium specifically, and how that one is a very common one that is deficient in picky eaters, and how specifically a lot of, we have a very high dairy consumption in America, and how we also have a very high like osteoporosis rates versus, countries and um, communities that don't have high dairy. It's because that dairy pulls the calcium out of the bones, right? I did talk about that. So if you're interested in that, make sure you watch that episode. Uh, I think it is, what did I call it? It's the one. It's called What is Your Child Missing from the Diet? Okay, so if you want, go back and see that one. But like assuming that your child is not getting adequate calcium, right? I mean, your the assumed intake is a 1,000 micrograms, right? So they'd be missing 365,000 micrograms in a year, right? And of course, this is not every day, and you can't possibly quantify it precisely for every single day of their life and their years, but I just wanted you to think about some of those crazy numbers of like, wow, well, if that's just 1 year. Okay, so if they're picky for 4 years and they've had a calcium deficient diet, they are missing on hundreds of thousands of micrograms of calcium that their body could have been having, right? Um, right? We talked about how important iron and zinc is. That's thousands of micrograms that have been missed that their body could have been using efficiently, to function optimally, and to learn better, and to, so your kids that are struggling to learn things, to focus, to pay attention, and you're like beating your head against the wall, are they missing some vitamins and nutrients? And the answer is, even for a typical kid, they probably are. Even if they're not a picky eater, they probably are missing some vitamins, nutrients that should be there, right? Because even typical kids who aren't necessarily picky eaters, if you're eating the standard American diet, you're probably just eating foods that don't have these vitamins. So you don't necessarily have to be a picky eater to use this program that I have created. It's really for anyone. And for anyone who feeds children who are not eating, just whole foods for every meal every single day, because, at some point you're going to eat foods that are less than optimal. It's just part of life. And you're going to need to supplement that in some way. But the problem is that there's really no guidance, no plan in place, no know-how of like how to get these nutrients in, especially to our picky eaters. So that's what I've created, right? But if you don't even know, like, what is, do they have good variety? I don't know. On the link below inside of the registration page, below the registration link, there is a free quiz called Variety in Your Child's Diet, and you can take it and get an idea of, is my child getting a good variety of foods? It's a quick, easy way to assess it. Not foolproof, obviously, it's just a quick little quiz, but it does give you a pretty good idea of are they getting the right foods, right? So it is available. I will have the link in the show notes and below the video. Now, if you're not even sure what the heck your kids are even missing, like, well, how much are they missing this vitamin? Do they eat any foods with this vitamin? I have taken all of the guesswork out of that for you. So our course that also launches the same day of the webinar on June 1st is specifically for that, right? So I have done all the work for you. I've taken out all the guesswork. You send me your profile of your child with all of the foods they eat, all of the supplements, whatever they're currently ingesting, and I will get you a report of the vitamins and minerals that are missing from their current diet and exactly what you can do to get those into their diet. So it's tons of resources for you. There's books, there's a recipe guide, there's videos to explain exactly how, in very easy terms, simple ways to get these nutrients into their current diet that they have. And that's not to say that you're going to stop working on getting them to eat new foods. No way. I definitely want you to continue to get them to expand. Right. But I give you the tools to do that. So you get a hierarchy, you get 3 different hierarchies with this program where I specifically will explain to you what foods to try in what order to help bridge them, to get them from their limited diet and to trying different new foods, which is something that we do in our feeding therapy, in our when we're trained in the SOS protocol of how to sequence based on sensory properties of the foods, and to get them to that point. So it's not stressful for them, not stressful for you, and it's all sort of done for you already, right? So it's really not a course of just general advice. It is tailored to your child specifically, which is incredible. So I have finally found a way to do this, to be able to help more parents at once than just that one-on-one time with me in the office. So I'm so excited about that. Now, let's just talk supplements and food, because I hear this a lot, that parents will supplement and be like, I've got it covered. They got their supplements. Okay. But I mean, it's great, right? Didn't I tell you I did that with my son and the fish oil, and it was incredible, right? But that's why I really needed a very high dose of it, because when you take a supplement, it's a drawback. is that that nutrient might not be as readily absorbed or utilized by the body compared to when you get it from the food. So when, if at all possible, it should come from the food. And that's what the program is really about. It's about getting the actual food components into their current limited diet so that their body is absorbing it from food, not just from supplements, right? Um, so many nutrients in food are also accompanied by other things, right? So for example, vitamin C is accompanied by flavonoids, which improve absorption, right? In contrast, isolated nutrients and supplements might not be as effectively absorbed by the body, right? You're also missing, so it's called synergistic um, effects, right? So synergistic means like how it works together. So foods contain a complex combination of nutrients and they work synergistically together to support the different functions of the body. So like for example, vitamin D enhances calcium absorption, while vitamin K directs calcium to the bones and teeth, right? So if you consume isolated nutrients through supplements, it doesn't have that same synergy as obtaining them from the food itself, right? Also, when you can take it from the food, you get other things like water and fiber, as well as things like the antioxidants and the flavonoids and all of those little goodies, right, that come with the food. That being said, I think everyone needs some level of supplementation, at least in the US, right? Our soils are super depleted of minerals from years of horrible farming and agricultural practices that have decimated the soil. So I do think everyone needs some level of supplementation, but we want the majority of our nutrients to be coming directly from the foods whenever possible. And since I know from personal experience and from working with hundreds of families, I know how hard it is to do that, especially when you have kids who are afraid of foods, kids who are super selective, who have been this way for years. It takes time to get them to the point where they're going to like food and enjoy food and incorporate that into the diet. And in that gap, in that interim period, you still need it because then you're getting thousands of micrograms of that vitamin that just never make it into the body, right? So I feel like we're really cutting our kids short, cutting ourselves short of the potential, of their potential by not giving them all of these different foods. And I'm not saying that every meal has to be perfect and everything has to, it's never going to be like 100% like, oh, my kid has a perfect diet. Like, I don't think that exists. And it's not even a diet. I just meant like the types of foods that they're eating. Like, oh, my kid eats perfectly. That's never going to happen either. No adult eats perfectly. No kid is going to eat perfectly. That's just unrealistic. But I think when you start to see that, like, okay, and you feel confident, like, I want you to feel confident that, like, my kid is getting the foods, the vitamins, the stuff, whatever, they're getting what they need. It takes a lot of the pressure off of us as parents to be the person that's supposed to be providing that very valuable, um, you know, service. I don't know if it's really a service, this valuable, I don't know, I guess for service, for lack of a better word that I could think of right now, to our kids. Like it's our job, right? As moms, as dads, to feed our kids, to make sure they're healthy, to keep them safe, right? So when it comes to food, it's easy to feel and to fall back into this mindset of I'm not doing a good job, I'm not keeping them safe, they're getting sick, they're breaking their bones, they're not focused. What am I doing wrong? It's easy to spin and get lost in that. So I hope by creating this program, I can give you back some of that peace of mind so that you can then focus on just getting them to actually eat and enjoy foods without the pressure of they need to get it in, because if they don't, they're not going to focus, they're not going to sleep, they're not going to learn, whatever. It's easy to get lost in that. So I really hope that you will join me at least in the free webinar. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And not to mention, you get a free gift when you stay till the end of the webinar. And Yeah, and our course has a 7-day money-back guarantee, so it is literally a risk-free investment. Because if you don't like it, you could just get your money back before the end of the 7 days. Um, so you can learn more about that on the website. I have all the links below in the show notes, in the links below the video. So I hope to see you there. And next week, we're going to be talking about the gap time in the gap period in picky eating. So stay tuned, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to How to Unpicky Your Picky Eater. To learn more about achieving your child's feeding goals, check out Christine's website at foodologyfeeding.com. And be sure to tune in next time to How to Unpicky Your Picky Eater.